Good morning, everyone. It is my honor this morning to introduce Mr. Naftali Bennett. I want to take about 45 seconds to do so. I'm going to spend probably half a minute describing all of the amazing achievements of Mr. Bennett, but actually I think that the thing that has the most profound personal impact is the fact that Mr. Bennett grew up in Haifa to immigrant parents in the United States. And the reason why I think it's so important to say that first before describing all of the achievements is that when you hear the achievements, you can imagine in your own minds as young men and women growing up in the United States, the possibility of making Aliyah, living in Israel, and either yourselves contributing to Am Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael in that way, or imagine children of immigrant parents in Medinat Yisrael, the kind of impact that is possible. Mr. Bennett was a member of Special Forces elite units, Sayeret Matkal, Maglan in the Army, was remarkably creative in his entrepreneurial efforts in the computer science and cloud world until he became a politician, forming a Bayit HaYehudi Jewish Home Party in Israel. He's been the leader of that party since 2012. Chaver Knesset, SAR Tfutzot, he's the Minister of Diaspora Affairs, and SAR Chinuch, Minister of Education. We are here in the diaspora in a yeshiva, the opportunity to talk to the person who's in charge of the relationship to Am Yisrael throughout the world and in education. It's a tremendous zchut for me to introduce Mr. Naftali Bennett.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here. First of all, I apologize in advance. We're in the midst of an ongoing event in Israel. Unfortunately, a bunch of kids were in a tiyul in the Negev, and there was a shikafon, how do you say that? A flash flood, and apparently at least 8 of them, 12th graders, are dead, unfortunately, and 1 or 2 are still missing. So I pray for them, and they might be called out to see what's going on. In any case, so yeah, my parents made Aliyah. They grew up in San Francisco, studied in Berkeley. They were totally unconnected to Yahadut or Israel in any way. But suddenly, in 1967, May of 1967, it seemed that Israel is about to be destroyed by the Arab world that placed a siege on them. And suddenly something happened to my mom and dad. Something sparked within them, and they said, "You can't have this country, this Jewish country, even though we've not been there. It cannot be destroyed." Right after the war, they came to Israel, and I grew up in Israel. Spent a few years also in the States. There's an Israeli island in the United States called Bennett, New Jersey. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's actually part of Israel, but it happens to be here. So we lived there for when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade. But I really did grow up in Israel. Served in the unit. Sayeret Matkal as a platoon commander, a company commander, did a bunch of operations behind the enemy lines, then spent a decade in the high-tech sector, founded with 3 very good friends a software company that failed for about 3-4 years, but then it succeeded, sold it, and ultimately entered politics. It was not my plan. I actually liked high-tech, but after selling the company, the company, what's called an exit, the Second Lebanon War started, and I was called in to command troops and search for rocket launchers from Lebanon onto Israel and destroy them, and we did that. Coming out of the war, I was sort of realized that my destiny is Am Yisrael, and not just business, even though I like business. So all of you are really connected to Israel, I understand. guess what I'd like to share with you is the experience of being a young person in Israel through the youth groups and through the military. I think I'm commonly asked, what's the secret of Israel's success as becoming the startup nation? And I think it's a combination of two things. Of our ancient Masoret of debate. Everyone in Israel is always arguing. Everyone always asks why. And it's difficult in some situations, but that friction where people are always arguing and loud, I think it helps in the high-tech area because that friction, those questions, they create sparks of innovation, of good ideas. And so I think the Talmud, the Gemara, Masoret of all those arguments is something that maybe 100 years ago wasn't very useful. Today in the high-tech area, it is very useful. And I'll tell you a story. When I was a commander of soldiers, one day I told the soldiers, we have an exercise that we have to capture this mountain. So one of the kids, his name is Ohad, he raised his hand and said, Naftali, he didn't call me, I'm Faked, commander, right, Naftali. He said, Lama? Why? What the hell do you mean why? I'm your commander, that's why. No, but why should we capture that mountain? So that could only happen in Israel. The second, though, element, so one is the Jewish heritage of thought and debate. The second element is the tachlis. You know what tachlis means? Get things done approach, where young people in Israel, men and women, are handed over remarkable responsibility at a very young age. I'll give you two examples. Even what happened today is, in a sense, an example. In Israel, all the youth movements, Bnei Akiva, Scouts, there's no adults involved. It's always youth who instruct youth. So I was a madrich when I was, say, 14 years old, in charge of 60 kids, boys and girls, in Bnei Akiva that were in 4th grade. And I had to take them on tiyulim and be responsible for their safety and their feeding them and educating them, etc. So when at a very young age, you're assigned big responsibility, it really expands your abilities. But also as a commander, I was 22 years old. This is not uncommon. Lots of boys and girls at a very young age. I was 22 years old. I was commanding operations deep in Lebanon, responsible for 100 soldiers and artillery and Air Force coordination, very complex stuff. Then later on in the startup world, there's a term in Hebrew, hakol katan alai. Have you ever heard that? Everything is small on me, meaning it's not a big deal compared to. So I think that part of the can-do spirit comes from the service, in the national service or military. Lots of the Dati girls do Shirut Leumi, national service at a young age. When folks here go to college, there you might be thrown into some town and you're responsible for teaching English, I don't know, whatever. But you're only 18 years old and you're already getting all these huge responsibilities. I love that about Israel. I think it's one of Israel's the beauty of Israel, that everyone's always starting up, helping the community, helping Israel, working with the underprivileged kids, working with the disabled kids. It's sort of humming with activity. When I was in Sayeret Matkal, this final example, so we were taught how to deal with hostage situations. Let's say there's a room with 100 hostages and 4 terrorists. So the general rule is get in the room, kill the bad guys, and try not to kill the good guys. That's pretty much the rule. But the first thing is, it's a simple rule, but you have to get in the room. And there's also a term in Hebrew, which is, if you can't get in through the door, get in through the window. If you can't get in through the window, punch a hole in the ceiling and get in. You get in. You get in that room. You get it done one way or another. Get it done. And so the combination of mara and debate and all that with you get it done, I think is really the secret of the amazing explosion that's going on these days in Israel. There's something really special. We talked about it before. Knowing that you're in your home. I love America, but there's nothing better than living in your home and looking left and right, and you know everyone is your brother and sister. You can argue, you can this, you can that, but we're all one family. And I think definitely as Minister of Diaspora Affairs, I'm Minister of the Jews. We'd certainly want to see all of you in Israel, but we also understand that many of you will decide to build your lives here, and I certainly respect that. Whether you make Aliyah or not, for the next 100 years, we want to strengthen the bond between Israelis and Jews around the world. And I'll wrap up before taking a few questions. If there's something that worries me, it's not the security of Israel. We're okay, we're strong, stronger than ever. It's the future of Jews abroad and especially in America. Now you're, modern Orthodox, but there's 6 million Jews in America now. Many of them are drifting away. And I view this as a national mission for Israel and for the Jews. How do we get to them? How do we keep them within our family? How do we avoid losing them? I don't have all the answers. In fact, I have only few answers here. We're working really hard. The state of Israel is working really hard with birthright and with schools abroad and with a bunch of other stuff on campus. But it's really important for us. Take a few questions. Go ahead. What's your name? Hadassah.
Part of the Bible is because of the support for Rabbi Shimon and the Tanakh complicit. However, people also use the Tanakh to go against Rabbi Shimon. For example, Mission is a song and that's exactly Sabina. So how do you, as the head of Bible
So Hadassah's question is the Tanakh. As head of Beit Yehudi, you have to do politics, eh? I also run the Beit Yehudi party. It's the third largest party in government today. And we support Eretz Yisrael and not handing over anymore, not even one piece of Eretz Yisrael to the Arab neighbors. Why? First reason is the Shelanu. Eretz Yisrael Shelanu. It belongs to us. And you're not going to begin carving up your house and handing it over to others. And there's also many security reasons. And you were quoting the Tanakh and saying that there's others who quote the same Tanakh and reach other conclusions. I'm not going to debate all of that. You just have to read the Tanakh. It answers itself. What I do know is that since we've entered politics, we've not given up 1 centimeter of land. As long as it's up to me, we're not going to give up our land anymore, and I'm telling you it's not going to happen. We're not going to divide Jerusalem, and we're going to keep Eretz Yisrael whole. That's important. Eretz Yisrael Shelanu. Go ahead. My favorite and least favorite part about Israeli politics.
How much time do you have?
Look, there's 2 parts of politics. One is the politics itself, which is gaining political power, and the other half is using that political power to do good for Medinat Israel, right? So one is the means and the other is the end, right? So the part of doing politics, it's not really fun. It's running around and trying to gain votes and then dealing with other politicians and a lot of compromises, giving up things that you really care about in order to promote something that you think is even more important. So politics is a very messy business, but I will say that there's lots of good people in politics, whether they're on my side of the aisle or on the left. It has nothing to do with it. I can tell you that in the Knesset, there's many, many great people, left and right, religious and secular and Haredi, that profoundly care about Israel, but have a very different vision of where Israel should go. And it's very complicated to keep on reminding yourself we're one family. And it's huge debates. Some think that I'm leading Israel towards a disaster. And I think that others are leading towards a disaster, but I never think that they want bad for Israel. Never will I think that, because it's not true. They want good for Israel. Then it's the second part of doing good for Israel. That's fun. I'm Minister of Education. I've got the best job in Israel. I'm in charge of 2.2 million kids, boys and girls, Jews and Arabs, Datiim, Chilonim, Haredim, you name it, instilling Zionist values, giving good science, English, technology education. So it's a great feeling. And I'm also a member of the Security Cabinet. That's the supreme vehicle that runs all of our national security strategy. And I think I have a meaningful impact there. So it's a wonderful feeling, and I'm very happy. So I'd say 70% enjoyment, 30% mega pain in the neck. One more. One more. Adina, these kids are so great. Go ahead. Last question. You can ask in any language.
שמי עדן, בשנתיים האחרונות למדתי בבית ספר ממלכתי דתי בישראל. שמתי לב שלתלמידים היהודים בבית ספר כמעט ואין הזדמנות לפגוש תלמידים ערבים. ובנוסף שיעורי ערבית לא העניקו להם את היכולת לתקשר עם ערבים בני זמנם. אז רציתי לשאול האם לדעתך צריך לארגן יותר מפגשים בין תלמידים יהודים וערבים וגם האם יש כתובת להדגיש את ילד ישראל הערבי?
So Eden has a wonderful question. I'll just repeat it. She came from Israel now, from the modern Orthodox school, and she said that as a student in the school, she did not study Arabic, nor did she have an opportunity to meet Arab school children and sort of engage and get to know. And what are your plans about that? So I am planning to increase the degree of Arab studies within Jewish schools, religious and non-religious. It's important because we have in Israel almost 2 million Arabs. They're not enemies. They're part of our country. They have a different identity, and it's complicated. It's not easy, but I'm optimistic. And yes, generally I do encourage, but I'll never force. I don't coerce stuff. I want schools I want Haredim to meet Chilonim, to meet Datiim, to meet Arab. I want people to meet each other while strengthening their unique identity, but also getting to know each other. I really apologize. I'd love to stay for hours and talk to you. I'm sure you'd love to not go to class for hours. But really just to leave this last point, whatever your personal decisions in life are, always know that Israel is your home. It's always there. We care for you. We hope you think about us. And finally, as you folks go out to college and leave this relatively safe space, if you will, you're going to hear lots of attacks on Israel. And here's my one ask from you. Never stay silent. Never stay silent. When someone attacks Israel, you stand up, you speak up, even if it's you alone against 300 people. You stand up and you fight back, because Israel is an amazing country. It's a democracy, a Jewish home for all the Jews of the world. and respects its minorities, and we're fighting wars that no other country has to. We're surrounded by Hezbollah, ISIS, Iran, Syria, Hamas, and Jabhat al-Nusra on our borders. And any other country that would be fighting would turn into tyranny. Yet we're an amazing country. So you got to be proud to be Israeli and connected to Israel. So stand up, speak up, and defend us. And I promise we'll keep Israel strong. Love you.